Good. And I know that,
Awesome.
yeah, I'll just say hi. And then I know you all, I don't know that you've met Katy, who's our CEO and one of my co-founders. But she'll be kind of talking us through today how we're starting to formulate our thoughts on what the future of a live experience might be in our platform. So we'll let Katy have
Awesome. Yeah, nice to meet you guys. So as Anna said, I'm Katie, if I haven't met you before. One of the co-founders here at CEO. And we're just doing a series of these events just to kind of get out some of the direction that we're thinking about going, some of the stuff that we're really excited about, and honestly to gather feedback from people and ideas. So would love for this to be a two-way conversation. Please feel free to, let us know if it sounds exciting or horrible or, nope, don't hold back. We're in still that design phase. So it's a great opportunity to incorporate any feedback or along the way before we really launch into building. But as Anna mentioned, so as you guys have been using InScribe for some time, you probably gathered that when we created the product, we really focused on creating spaces for students to self-service their way to support or to provide opportunities for asynchronous conversation. And that was on purpose because we felt like, especially with many of the students we were working with, that they're very busy, they might be working or parenting or doing other things, or even in class during the day. So having the flexibility of a space that they could interact with when and where it made sense to them was really important to us. But with that said, we have always believed that a complete community experience, a complete student support experience is one that really integrates opportunities for both synchronous and asynchronous collaboration. And our vision is to create something that would allow people to really move seamlessly between those modalities. So the first of that was what we did I forget what year it is. Last year, when we launched our live events feature, which if you haven't played around with that before, it allows you to schedule and promote, like we did with this event, synchronous activities through your InScribe community. But that was really just the starting place. So today what we're going to do is look at some of the other ideas we have about how synchronous components can come into the platform. We're also going to explore a potential partner of ours who might help us get to the synchronous piece a little faster, and we can kind of talk about what their role might potentially be and what some alternatives. So with that rather lengthy preamble, let me bring up, hold on one second, make sure I'm on the right page here. Let me bring this up. Okay. So one other thing you'll notice about this screen is that the navigation probably looks slightly different from what you're used to seeing in InScribe. I'm not going to talk so much about that today. That's something we're playing around with from a real estate perspective, but don't get too confused about that. You sort of imagine that the real estate is still up here at the top. So as I mentioned, we're thinking about this intersection between synchronous and asynchronous. And right now we're thinking about it in three ways. One is that you have this idea of a scheduled synchronous event. So that's really what we already have in the platform today with live events. And we know there's things that we can do to make that a little bit easier. For example, you would tell us in advance what synchronous tool you like to use. And then when you go to schedule your live event, you would just click a button, it would automatically add that link for you, probably like what you do in your calendar when you're creating an event and you want to create a video conference. So we are, intending to extend the capabilities of that existing feature just to make it a little easier to manage and administrate. But the new things that we're thinking about are kind of twofold. One is the idea of what I'll call a spontaneous synchronous event. So you're working asynchronously and you find a moment where you want to have a more synchronous conversation. So that would be like initiated and then closed in a shorter period of time. And then the last one is the idea of perpetual synchronous spaces. So always open, always available, and students can kind of come in and out as they want to. So let's talk a little bit about the idea of this spontaneous live event. Sorry, my husband and my mother-in-law are leaving. and what that might look like. So the idea, and this was really inspired by conversations we had with our customers who would say, I'm working with a student, or I have two students who are talking together about trying to solve a problem. And either, the complexity of the problem or the speed with which they want to get to resolution makes it hard to do in this asynchronous format. And what they were doing was like jumping out to Slack or jumping out to some other tool. And we thought, well, there's no reason that we can't offer that capability inside of InScribe as well. You can see we're working on this activity together. We've gotten to that moment where we're like, I just need to go faster. And so we would give students the opportunity to do what we call jump to live. So they would click this link and it would initiate a synchronous space for them. Now, one thing we're talking about, and maybe we can have a conversation about, is certainly we would want to invite the participants of this conversation into that live event. But maybe we would also let other members of the community know, hey, this conversation just went live, jump in if you want to. The synchronous experience would include chat, so they could, have that sort of more rapid iteration of conversation. It could include a video conference, so they're in there seeing each other and maybe sharing screens. And then potentially it could be like an audio only conference or some combination thereof. But in any case, it's a way to go faster and iterate more quickly. And then it would probably pop up here in the sidebar. So we're still working. Veronica, are there other designs that show that sidebar that I should be showing? I think I just grabbed this one because it was the most recent one I had, but
not that are easy to get to.
okay, perfect. So imagine that this is like a little chat bar here, or I'll show you an example of video conference. So we go in there, we work together to resolve the problem. And then once that resolution is achieved, we would either invite those users to share their resolution back to the larger conversation, or ideally, we would actually use technology to summarize what happened in that live space and then attach that summary back to the conversation. So you're not, even though knowledge is being generated here, we don't want to lose that knowledge. So we want to find a really easy and effective way to capture it and bring it back. So again, like anything in your community, other people can learn from it, benefit from it, and it's adding to your knowledge repository. Let me pause there for a second. So tell me your, any immediate reactions to this idea of jump to live. Do you see where it might have been useful to you when you're using InScribe? Does it worry you at all? Any thoughts? One thing, some things people have told us would be, is the video conference maybe like a little too intrusive? That's where that idea of the audio only came up. Some folks have said to us that idea about the knowledge generation, like I don't want it to get lost, or I kind of want to know what's going on in those synchronous spaces. So making sure that that was included in there. We also have a little bit of conversation going on about which tools to use when we generate these spaces. So chat is a little easier. That's something we would just build natively and build into the platform, because there's probably lots of ways we could use that. Video conferencing is a little trickier because that's obviously a very complicated product in and of itself. Probably not something, at least for today, that InScribe is going to build. So we have this idea that we could, if you're using Zoom or some other tool, we could allow you to use that to initiate spaces. But this is where that partner I was talking about might come into play. There is a company called InSpace who does video conferencing for higher education. And they have kind of a unique approach to it, which is rather than everybody in boxes like we are right now, you actually have your own little bubble and you can move it around in and out. The closer you are to somebody, the louder they are, the further away, the quieter they get. So it mimics a little bit more what it's like to actually be in a room together and in a space together. So we like the interface, but actually one of the things we more like about it is we'd have a lot of control over the capturing of information taking place in these spaces. So we could automatically record what's going on in there, automatically get a transcript, automatically capture the knowledge that was generated in there and bring it back. And that's a little trickier for us to do with some of the existing tools like a Zoom or a Teams or something like that. They don't always provide those capabilities for us.
Katie, I have a question.
Yeah, please.
What about maybe like the share screen feature? Because that's what we use in WebEx, et cetera. You know, if a student is like, I don't know what you're talking about, and then we just share our screen.
Yeah, so that would be available in that video conference, including InSpace. InSpace would offer you the ability to do that share screen. And probably that would not be included in the chat feature, you know, especially initially. So that's why I think that video conferencing thing would be really valuable. Great question. And I agree. I think a lot of times when you're getting into it, you're like, just show me what you're doing or show me what you're struggling with.
Exactly. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, yeah, so this is one of the ones that we're really excited about. But again, this is the idea of spaces that would come and go fairly regularly. So they would be highlighted in your synchronous area when they're on, but once they've gone off, you know, there would be maybe some period of time where you could see that this thing had taken place, or potentially you could go into a chat and maybe add a little bit, but they would eventually, you know, turn off, so to speak.
And we know
The other end of that, oh,
I was going to say that another thing that's come up is we know that like at IU, for example, where Kevin's from, everybody has access to video conferencing anytime. They'll have like a Zoom account. Is there, you know, just wondering, Lisa, for you all, is there any concern about folks being able to launch live sessions without moderators being there? We've heard that from some schools, and some schools are like, we don't care, they're doing it anyway. And some schools have some concerns. So I'm curious if you have any thoughts about it.
I have a thought. If it's a school platform, you will want to moderate. Like if they go and do something on Facebook, we have no, you know, that's on them. But I would say that I can see why that might be a concern if it's considered a school platform, right? That would be my
because
only...
the school's sort of sanctioning it or something. Is that
exactly.
the idea?
And if something goes on, if there's some kind of interaction that's inappropriate that is not moderated, then I can see that could be an issue, you know, and then the school's liable for something that happened and there's nobody to hold accountable for it, or nobody to say inappropriate, I'm ending this, you know, and reach out to those students separately. So I would see a reason why these, again, if they started in different mediums, that's a whole different story. But if a conversation is started on a school sanctioned platform, I think it should be, a moderator should be present. I don't know. That's my 2 cents.
No, it's a good point, and one that I think I need to learn a little bit more about in terms of the liability factor. And are there things that we could build in that would, for example, if the live space knew, like it could use AI to understand when you're going down a bad path and like it would interrupt you. I don't know. I don't really know if that's possible, but I know that the InSpace team is thinking about stuff like that. But that's good to know, and good. And I think it's a concern that other people have shared with us.
I think that would be an interesting,
yeah, sorry.
An interesting setting by institution, because I don't think that IU would want that setting. Like if we use this kind of tool, I think we would want our students to be able to use it in their own groups or huddles, you know, however they want to use it without a moderator. So I think it's probably something that, or maybe even by course, if there's a way to
say it might even be a
set that
setting. We do, as you know, we do a lot of setting at community level, because maybe in some courses it's fine, and in other courses it isn't, or maybe in a peer-to-peer community, great, because that's first anyway, versus, so yeah, it's probably, we often do settings at the community level.
I like that.
Yeah, that's a great point. Good idea. Anna, do you have any other questions on that piece?
No, I'm always curious about that, since it seems
No.
to run the gamut of how schools think about it. And it doesn't matter in size either. It's really all over the place. So I'm just always curious.
You really do, yeah. It's the configuration is key. I'm glad you asked that question. Thank you. So I was going to say, sort of on the opposite end of the spectrum, which also kind of lends itself to no moderation, is this idea of a perpetually open space. So a study hall or a library or a quote unquote coffee shop where students can just drop in and see if anybody else is around. Maybe they just want to, you know, find someone to study with. We've actually had people tell us that students are doing this on their own, creating like Zoom spaces and going in there and then not even talking to each other, just like being online together while they study, as a way to recreate some of the, I think the experience that they had when they were on campus, or that they might have if they were going to be on campus. So I didn't realize people were doing that. Honestly, it didn't occur to me that people were looking for that sense of connection that deeply. But it's come up more than once, and these would be easy spaces to create. I think the key would be what you see here, which is telling you when people are in those spaces or who is in there. So you could know if you're jumping into an empty hallway, or if there's just one other person, maybe you don't want to jump in there because in this expectation that you might chat with them. But wondering if your students do any of that today. Like, do you see them kind of reaching out to each other organically to set up study groups, or to get together to meet when it's not like a required project or a required thing that they're meant to do? I don't know if you see that with them, or I don't know if you have a perspective on this piece. Who were we talking to that had that? There was some other use case for it that somebody was telling me the other day, but I can't remember.
I was like, what are you talking about?
I think it was 4 days, but I can't.
Yeah.
Was it?
I can't remember. That could be, but it just seems so foreign to me. But I thought it was interesting. But then it did come up a few times. It was one of those things that surprised me.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, I think the way that I envisioned it being useful is if I'm studying at, you know, midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning, and I'm really struggling. Number one, just knowing that other people are also up and studying might just be calming to me. But then also I could just ping somebody and say, oh, hey, you know, is it chapter 3 or chapter 4 that's due tomorrow? Or I'm having trouble turning my homework. Have you turned this in? How did it work? Like those really small questions that can feel really insurmountable when it's late at night. And if you don't get a solution to it, it might get in the way from you, you know, progressing and getting your homework done. Or it's sort of the procrastinators space, I guess, is where I'm getting at. But yeah, I don't know, any thoughts on that? Or Veronica, I don't know if you've had any other brainstorming around this idea since we've been talking to people.
No, more just more been working on the chat space, which I did send you a link. Chat in the
See
meeting.
what the chat might be, how the chat might be evolving.
Yeah.
Ooh, hot off the presses.
No.
Well, yeah. So you had talked about it opening in frame, but we were more thinking if you want to navigate around while you're working, while you have a chat space open, that opening it in a way that you could navigate around might be better.
Yeah.
And then also having, you know, not maybe starting a live session right away, but giving the option from the chat, if you want to then take it to the next level, that you could then start a live session for that as well, if you can see just the little live session button in the header. So
right
that doesn't do anything yet, but
right.
Then
but I see what you mean. So let's chat, and then now I want to share my screen. So like let's
exactly.
To your point, take it up a
so
level.
There's like a progression of connection that would allow people to kind of get comfortable with that level of connection, and, you know, oh, let's take it one step further with a live session potentially.
That also
Um,
helps with this idea of the intimidation factor of jumping into a video with people you don't know, right?
Exactly,
It's
yeah.
like, yeah, this
Um,
personalizes it to a certain extent before you go on that date, that first date. Not
yeah.
really. I don't know.
And
That's a
then
bad
also,
analogy for our platform.
yeah, well, and then also just the feedback we've gotten that you may want to be looking at something else while you're having your chat. So
100%. Yeah. But this chat would still be associated to this conversation. Is that the
yeah,
idea? So you could
yeah,
still marry them together. I like
exactly.
that. That's really cool.
I
Yeah. So
really,
then those,
oh,
yeah.
I was just going to say, I really like the idea of an open space for studying for OAs or something like that. You know, I can totally see a student at 3 a.m. thinking, all right, I'm stuck, and then looking and seeing that there were 2 or 3 other people in the space that they might be able to ask the question about. I think I mean, it's definitely a cool concept.
Awesome. Awesome. Great.
Yeah, I agree with that. We're working with some nursing students who are in their clinicals, and they start to feel totally kind of separated from campus because they're not on campus at all. They're either at the hospital or they're working out in the county, going out to people's homes. And so there really is that sense of losing some community. So the idea of this kind of function where no matter what, their hours are crazy too. So when they are actually jumping on to do some work, it could be the middle of the night by the time they get to this. So seeing that there's other people on too, I think that's exactly right. It does kind of help that community and you don't feel like you're so alone.
Awesome. That's a great example, where they're like temporarily off campus away from each other and maybe not used to it as much if they've been on campus as nursing students and now they're off doing their clinical and sort of more
Yeah.
separated. That would feel even more acute probably for them.
I have
So
a
then the
question
trick
on
is
the
really like letting them know. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
yeah. No, on the I think that was a button called go live. Is that how it was labeled?
Yeah.
So would there be a way I like the idea of kind of having tiers, so you start with, or kind of escalating, so you start with just a live with a chat and then go to different, kind of move that up if you want to actually go to like a live video session um or audio session. But do you think on that go live there could be, if you hover over that, like the default could be start a chat, but then even on that button you could have options to start a audio or video session?
Veronica, I'm going to let you tackle that one.
Yeah, no, that's I think that's exactly how we're kind of thinking about it, and really just working through the different scenarios where you might want to just jump to video right away.
Yeah.
Or you might want to just open like a live chat room. So yeah, we're kind of really just working through where to start. Because we have like we have some of the pieces and we're just trying to put them together in the right way, eventually giving you all the options. But yeah, I can definitely see where you might want to start with a chat room and then you kind of get to the end of that and you're like, you know what, let's move to actually a video or audio or screen sharing.
Yeah.
Or you might just want to start there, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
We're a little bit trying to balance. It's possible that the jumping into a video conference is, from a technical implementation standpoint, is actually simpler to implement for us than the whole chat piece, mostly because we can borrow the video conferencing tool from somebody else, whereas the chat we would be building natively. But we think people might use the chat more initially, and that also gives us a little more control over knowing the content that's being generated in there and then being able to do something with it. So we're sort of like balancing these two things right now, trying to figure out which should come first, and like,
and then also
worth
being
just
able
doing
to
it?
give people previews to who is actually active right now.
Oh, right. Yeah.
It's the tools that we own where we can know that a lot more easily versus, oh, there's a live session going, but it's in your Zoom. and we can't really peek into there. So there may not be anyone. There may be one person, which would be awful. I'm just kidding.
Veronica the introvert.
Yeah.
I can't be a lurker if I'm in there.
If
I'm
I'm the only one in there, I can't lurk.
Yes, so it's like what we really want is just to have all the things right away, but we
Yeah.
know we have to sequence them, and that'll also get value out to you guys faster. So just know we're kind of a little bit back and forth on the sequence of how things will come out. And
Putting all the pieces together.
in fact, we have a meeting in 2 minutes to talk about that. So more on
We
that
should
to
have
come, but
I think we'll have a plan soon.
yeah. Well, first of all, I appreciate you guys coming and spending some of your lunch hour / afternoon with us. And great feedback. It's just great to like reiterate both the positives and some of the concerns that are coming out. Our goal is to have this plan solidified in the next couple of weeks. So we'll be, getting back to you with more timelines as we have them, and then, look for this feature set to start coming out over the course of the rest of the year.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, you guys. Great to see you.
Thanks,